Jadzia's Gach is waiting for Ezri in Cargo Bay 2. Norvo has a hangover, and Miles O'Brien is in New Sydney and following some promising leads. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine Season 7, Episode 11, entitled Prodigal Daughter, written by our buddies Bradley Thompson and David Weddle, directed by Victor Lobel. This was Aaron Eisenberg's birthday, January 6th, 1999. We are joined by a very special guest, Ezri Dax herself, Lieutenant Ezri Dax, that is, Nicole de Boer.
Don't forget it, Lieutenant. Second episode.
Yes, Lieutenant.
Hi, guys. Thanks
Hey.
for having me.
Hey, Nikki.
All right. Before we get started, we do have a very special thanks to give out to John Segal. Thank you very much for sponsoring this episode, John Segal. This one is for you. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good. Doing good. That's funny because you said John Segal made me think of a movie, a book slash movie called
Livingston Seagull.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know it.
Great book.
You don't know about that book there? It's a book that was turned into a movie. But the author of that book is the author of another book that is one of my favorite books, and that is called Illusions. The Adventures of Illusions.
Yeah.
The Adventures of the Reluctant Messiah.
Reluctant Messiah. Oh
Yes.
my gosh. I was tripping on that stuff when I was a teenager. Wasn't it so
Yes.
good?
Yes, it's such a good book.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's a very beautiful book. The same author, I think his name is Richard Bach,
Yeah.
is the author of that book, as well as Jonathan Livingston Seagull. So yeah, that was a little word play, a little background, but this book, Illusions, anybody out there listening, you should get the book if you're interested in just having a really good kind of a short book that takes you on a really magical ride. And it's fun to kind of challenging your thoughts about the world and everything else. So Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. That is a fantastic read and will be on my book list when I start a book list.
You had me at short read.
Yeah, short. I think it's like
It's
150
very
pages.
Yeah. But it's lovely. That's a good recommendation, Sirach. Yeah. Haven't thought about that book for a while, but I loved it.
So everybody, Sirach Lofton's book club is coming soon. Stay tuned for more information on that.
Yeah.
But be careful. Sirach's pretty intelligent, so he may have some pretty far out books about history and culture and things I've never even heard of, like Illusions, was it?
Illusions. Yeah. This is a book about the adventures of the reluctant Messiah. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, the Messiah, it's basically that. So you'll go into the story with an open mind, but it does take place in America, I think in Ohio or Indiana. And it's it's just a very fun story. Mm-hmm. And Richard Bach won my praise when I read that book because I was like, wow, this guy's a great writer. And he's telling a story through this parable, through this other story. He's telling another story about faith and belief in yourself and all of these other things.
You know who's lacking faith and belief in themselves? Norvo.
Oh.
Your Ezri's brother. Yeah.
Or no.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because that was one thing I wanted to talk to you about, Nicole, because when we had Ira on not too long ago, we talked about this season 7. And I think we were about, 8 or 9 episodes into it. And I told him, I said, you know what, this season 7 feels like it's Ezri's season. And I feel like she is reintroducing us to the cast that we already know, right? Through her eyes, right? It's like, through her eyes, we get to see these very same people we already got to know, but she gets to know them too. And he kind of like, he said, I never thought of it that way, but yes, that's what we were doing. And I wonder for you, what was that experience for you? I mean, you're coming into a show, it's already established, and now you're coming in, and essentially it's really about you in the beginning of this 7th season. Like right away, the first 3-4 episodes, it's Ezri. And I'm happy with it because it really gives me like I said, an insight on the characters that I already knew, but through your perspective, which I love. But what's that like? Because I've been on guest stars on shows that are already in production. I did Seventh Heaven and all this other stuff, and they were already well into their production. And you're slightly intimidated because you're like, okay, all these guys are, they already know. I don't even know some of their characters, right? I don't even know
totally
what they do, right? So how fast did it take you to kind of adjust to that? Was that some kind of responsibility you were eager to take on, or was there nerves about it? Like the bulk of the episode, not just the first episode, but like literally we're now in 11th episode, and I would say 9 of the 11 are Ezri-centric episodes.
Yeah, well, as you say, when you do guest spots on television shows, which I had done also several of those before I came to this show. It's difficult, right? You come in and, hopefully you like it. Hopefully it's a good guest spot, which I thought Norvo got in this one. I remember thinking, he's getting some good stuff for his demo reel.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that for Kevin Rom. And he did go on to do a lot of stuff after this.
He looked familiar.
Yeah. And so it can be really difficult depending on the show. And if you know anything about it is the thing that's really important too. If you've watched the show, if you know the characters, that's super helpful. You know what I mean? I hadn't specifically watched Deep Space Nine, but I had watched, all of TNG. So, I loved Star Trek, so that really helped, even though I felt like, yikes, I didn't watch this series. So, and I didn't really have a lot of time to watch it before I got cast and I started. But that definitely helped, because I know what types of characters are Star Trek characters. I know what the world is sort of, and I was super eager to be part of that and felt good about that. Felt like I knew how to be on a Star Trek show. So that helped. Whether I was right or not, I don't know, but that's how I felt. And so it gave me that confidence going in. But then there was the aspect of killing off a very loved character that made me nervous, but what could I do about it? It wasn't my fault. And I was super happy to get the job. And everybody was telling me, don't worry about it. Just think of this as a new character. Don't stress about that, And then the writing was there. And then it was fun. And then to play with all these different people and these characters and this well-oiled machine. I mean, everybody else has very fully realized characters and been doing it a long time. So that part helped. But it was, and then as we started to go along and it was like, I knew this was the final season of the show. They never told me anything about how much I would be in it or whatever. But of course, that makes sense. If you're going to add a character, you want to use them. But I would start to get scared if I got the script and I was like, ooh, it's another Ezri episode. Ooh, like I hope fans.
Like, I'm all in this episode.
And like there's like we're going to be wrapping up this show this year, and like there's a lot of stuff we should be in. Oh God, it's another one just about me. And part of me is like, yay, this is great, but part of me was scared of any backlash or whatever. I thought so. There were those nerves, but of course, being television, you shoot it, you don't air it till way down the road. You don't know at that point. All you can do is go in and do the work and do your best work, and try not to worry about that. Just worry about what it is you have in front of you and do your best, So, but it wasn't until down the road further that I did realize what a wonderful opportunity this was, because I did, like you say, you get this opportunity to learn more about these characters and how they felt about Jadzia. And if they had just killed her off, but it was very smart to use Dax. I mean, that's what the whole Dax is about, is having multiple lives. So of course it makes sense to have a new Dax be brought into the Star Trek world. So, and then a Dax that can come in and, have everyone on DS9 who cared so much about Jadzia have that way to have closure somehow, or to just have her back again, or to, like you say, to get to know these characters that we all love better through Ezri, and they're missing Jadzia and everything. So I realized that was actually a real gift and really special,
Yeah, just a little bit more about that, but when we were first introduced to the characters in season 1, you get to know them, you see how they bounce off each other, which relationships are friendly, which are competitive, right, or even combative in some ways. Then Worf shows up in the 4th season, and he kind of allows new aspects of characters to come out. We see how Odo deals with somebody kind of stepping on his toes, and in his perception, possibly. We see, how does Kira adjust to this? So now fast forward to the 7th season, and now we have Ezri. And so we get, like Sirach was saying, we get kind of reintroduced to these characters, because we're now seeing an aspect of this character we've never seen, which is how this character responds to not just Ezri, the character, but just the idea of a counselor, for example, or the idea of an ensign joining, their ranks, and now lieutenant junior grade. And so it's really interesting to see how each character reacts to this new character. It's like it's breathing new life into each one of them. And I was really excited to see the two of you and O'Brien together, because this is how Deep Space Nine creates these relationships the best. They have two people on an away mission, or one person on a mission, the other person goes to save them, or, O'Brien is stuck in a jail cell in Cardassia and Odo goes to bail him out, or whatever it is. And I just kind of wish we had gotten to see more of the Miles and Ezri show.
Me too.
When I saw them together, I wanted to see the two of you and how your relationship with each other worked out, how you bounced off each other. And we didn't quite get to see as much as I would have liked. But what do you remember of that, Nikki, of the relationship between you and Colum, or when you first saw the script? Did you feel like it was lacking, or was it just fun working with them, or what was it like?
Well, so this was one where I felt concerned, like, okay, wow, this is off the station. This is going to Ezri's home. So I was a little nervous about it. I'd heard about it, we were going to do the next episode. You're going to go home and there's a murder. And so I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I'm going to help with that, help solve a murder. But then what it was, I kind of feel like I'd love to take this episode. Like, I feel like there's a few different episodes in this that could have been, I remember reading it and kind of going, well, who's Bilby? And who's Bilby's wife?
Yeah.
And that, I was just confused.
And I watched the Bilby episode, and I was saying that.
Yeah.
I watched Bilby. I don't remember exactly who Bilby was, but as I was saying, I was like, what was Bilby about? And I don't remember it that clearly. And I was kind of thrown off too by that same kind of referring to something that was not in continuity. It was like that happened like 3 seasons ago or something. You know what I mean? It was hard for me to when was Bilby?
Right. And then, I like when murder mysteries, like, you're learning something about that person that died, or the people who were connected to that person. That wasn't really what was happening here. So, it was kind of strange. I loved that I got to work with Colum, because and we got to hang out more. And I think through that we became better friends and stuff. And so that was a major plus. But then the opportunity I feel like there's a missed opportunity. I would rather it just be as you know, Ezri and Miles go and solve like a real mystery together, you know, and have lots of us together. That would have been a cool thing to do. I would have really loved that. And then as far as a family one, because listen, it's always fine to do a slow piece, a slower moving piece about family dynamics, and certainly you want to understand where Ezri was coming from and before she was joined. So it's nice to go and learn about that. But then that should maybe without a murder, or I don't know what else it would have been. But gosh, you take away the murder, then there's
no stakes.
Conflict. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's no stakes. And I think this episode maybe struggled a little with the conflict and just direction a little bit. I believe it was put together quickly because there was another episode that was going to be made and it got tossed out. So
oh, really?
Maybe didn't have as much time and as many passes. I think that's what happened with this episode. I know that Ira Bear did apologize to me for this episode at one point.
Wow, I've never heard of a writer apologizing to an actor. It had its flaws for sure, which is too bad. But there's some. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with you. And Ryan, I think that the best thing of the best part of this episode was the pairing of O'Brien and Ezri. That was the thing and what I really liked about it was O'Brien was kind of suspicious of you, right? I think he was like, he thought you were in on something. Like he was like, yeah, you don't know about this. You don't know that your mom is your brother or whatever it was. Right. He kind of had a little bit of suspicion. I like the fact that you guys, you're like, I don't know anything. You're like, what the hell? I don't know anything. Yeah. I just figured this out. I'm just finding out like you are. So there was a good like chemistry there between the two of you. I love that. And I think they tried to squeeze way too much backstory about your mom being abusive and mean, and it didn't need to be there. And it would have been better had maybe your brother been like a police detective who was helping investigate the crime. That way the three of y'all are working together, trying to crack the code or something to that nature. I don't think the whole my brother did that. I don't think it was necessary for the mother being, an abusive mother and the whole extra backstory. The other thing that I would say why I think Ira would reasonably apologize to you for is they brought in a whole new group of people.
All new people.
This is like,
well, that's the tough part.
I was like, who from like? There's 5 new people on this episode.
It was like I walked into set that day and I was like on a whole other show. I was like, okay, none of these people are normally on this show. Like, this is like a whole other. It feels just like a whole other show.
Therein lies the pressure, because then it becomes the Ezri show. So suddenly.
Right.
You are the focus of everybody's attention.
Which is even hard to do for somebody who's been a regular for 5 seasons, for example. And I'll give you an example of that. When Bashir had to do that episode, I think statistical probabilities with all those other people. It wasn't that good because you have 5 other cast members that nobody knows.
It was the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's hard to carry an episode with all new people that nobody's ever seen before, and it's like it's brand new, and the storyline doesn't move it that
you're
great.
Not in your uniform. You're not Starfleet. You're dressed in like these loosey baggy things that are not, and you're at home with these new people who are you people? Really? I mean, so it all feels weird. It all feels kind of strange.
I feel like they tried to squeeze too much stuff in here, try to give Ezri more backstory. And we don't really need that much Ezri backstory because Dax's backstory is like 10 lifetimes worth of backstory already. So it felt like they were adding backstory where it didn't need to be. I do think that the whole murder mystery might have been better. I wanted to know more about the Orion Syndicate. They kind of
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
they teased me with that, but they didn't go into it. It was like they were just there, kind of in the background.
And then right away she was dead. Right away you find O'Brien, and he's like, "Oh, she's dead." You're like, "Oh, she's dead already." Okay, so
So what are we doing here?
And so, yeah.
Yeah.
But listen, I had a great time with Colm. We had a great time together. So that was good. And I'm glad
you could tell. You
Yeah.
can tell when you see the chemistry between the two of you. It's just like, and you know what? I was just looking at the, so Victor Lobel directed this episode. Yeah. And I look back at the episodes they did, Who Mourns for Morn, and he just did In the Pale Moonlight, which was like fantastic.
Wow. That was Victor Lobel as well?
That was Victor Lobel. And, but even in the Pale Moonlight, it is a slow story that unfolds.
I love
it just makes sense, right? It's
slow, it's with characters we already know.
But that's it.
Right.
I mean,
this is slow with characters I don't know. And I mean, pace-wise, you know what I mean? There's no action in this. This is all conversation. So the pace of it is very kind of deliberate and slow. But they're with people we don't know. And I'm like, I don't know your brother. I don't know your mom's character. And even though they were great actors, it's out of, like you said, there's no Starfleet uniforms. Yeah. There's no conflict that we're aware of. Like, this is a brand new part of space that we don't even know. It's not like we're on the Bajoran homeworld where we have backstory on Bajorans and stuff. I don't know where they were. It was like some New Sydney. I was thinking of Sydney, Australia. I was like, oh, they're in Sydney, Australia.
No, it's in like the Dolores Belt or something. They said something with some sector or something.
So there was nothing I could even like attach my mind to. This is not even a place that I've seen before. It's not even Sydney, Australia. You know what I mean? Like, I would be good with that. It was just like everything was too, hey, this is a new place and a new universe, and these are her new family that you've never seen. I would have liked to know more about how they went through their Trill initiation and stuff, because I was like, oh wow, everybody has
they didn't have symbionts, I don't think. Did they? I don't know.
Well, they had the spots.
Well, the spots are on Ultrill. Yeah,
they weren't joined. Ezri was the only one who was joined. It's almost like they weren't even proud of me that it was like
right. That's why Mom was kind of judgy with you about that.
It was a bad thing to them. There's no pleasing that woman. She was lovely, though. I will say, what's her name? Lee Taylor Young. I remember when I told my mom, she was really excited because she's like, oh, I loved her on Peyton Place. There was a 1960s series called Peyton Place, which had like Mia Farrow, Ryan O'Neal. I think Lee Taylor Young married Ryan O'Neal for a period. So my mom was excited about that. I was like, oh, and she was a lovely, lovely woman. I remember I would come in to set and she'd already be talking to Victor and just kind of going, I just don't understand why she would. And then she kept saying, I just want to hug you. And she's just so awful. And she was always trying to talk about her. She was, I don't know, it seemed like she was not struggling is not the right word, but she was having issues with maybe some of the writing or some, I don't know what it was, but it always come in and she was talking to Victor and saying, I don't know.
Yeah, she's probably like, what's my motivation here? I don't get it. What's
well, you know what
why
it is?
Why am I angry all the time?
It seems like maybe the actress was sweeter in disposition than the character was.
Oh, so sweet. So sweet.
Maybe that's where what was tough about it.
Yeah, I think that's what's tough, because I remember her saying, I just want to embrace you. And she's so awful. And I'm so sorry. And I'm like, that's okay. I understand. It's okay. And then, doing the scenes with Norvo, Kevin, I literally felt like I was in a different show, or I don't know, like a pilot for another show. And I was like, is he the star of this show? I don't know. What's going on? He's great. I think that this is his scene. And he's going to get some really good material for his demo reel for this scene. Yeah. But I was like, I don't really know what this is for me. I don't really get it. I'm so sorry. I didn't really get, but I wasn't going to say anything because I was just so thrilled to be on this show, but I was like, not sure I understand this episode.
Well, and you never know. Sometimes in Star Trek, when you have an episode like this, things pay off in subsequent episodes. But
is true.
midway through the final season, you have a lot less of an opportunity of that happening. You got like 14 episodes left in the whole
So
series.
is there going to be a payoff for that? Probably not. Maybe not. Yeah.
But there was your mom delivered a line that I thought was like, it reminded me of my mom and everybody else's mom.
Right.
When she walks up and she says, "I hate your hair."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And she's just basically like, everybody's like, "Hey, your hair's short," and you're like, "Oh yeah." And your mom just walks up. It's like my mom, you think you look cool, and your mom's like, "Oh, you look like an idiot with that shirt."
Totally.
Moms don't sugarcoat.
No, they go right to the cutting you down, and I thought that was great for her as far as delivering that, because she cut you down like
some good family dynamic stuff that people can relate to, or feeling that you're not always enough, like nothing you do is good enough, and that's all interesting stuff to talk about and look at, but it just felt disjointed from then the murder thing, mystery. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't flow well. I was like, how come, there was another thing. How come O'Brien is always off on a, like, wasn't he in jail?
So that we can see him wearing cool threads.
That's right.
We can see him in a nice little button shirt that's a weird color.
He's always off just randomly doing, O'Brien is like, what? And this was another one of those, but he's
Bashir is waiting for him to come back. I love that stuff,
Yeah, waiting at the airlock, looking at the passengers as they exit the plane. Like,
that was so sad.
Where is he?
This poor guy. He's probably holding welcome home balloons.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, guys.
Bashir's got a Holosuite program that's just a version of O'Brien,
where they're playing darts. They're just playing darts. And then he makes O'Brien like a little bit worse.
He's just constantly complimenting him.
Yeah.
You're really good there, doctor. Thank you.
Hey guys, so we do have to run to our break very quickly. Nikki, I think this is it for you with us for this particular episode, but we do want to thank you very much for joining us. I know we've got a lot more to talk about with this episode and a lot more. Sirach and I love to be like, you know what they should have done?
Right, do it. Go for it.
we got a lot more of that and a lot more of actually really good things that I enjoyed, because there's always gonna be good things in every episode.
I did like some of the Ezri things in there, again, about her identity or even gender. I think was in that one. It might have been
pronouns.
Yes.
I threw back the covers and I don't know which sex I'm going to be at there.
You mentioned pronouns.
That was so funny when you said
pronouns.
I don't know what gender I am until I pulled back the covers, and they did a reaction shot on your mom that killed me. She just went, oh. She's just like, oh. Because she's already kind of against this.
Yeah. Anyway, but thanks guys, and hopefully I'll see you guys again.
Absolutely.
We'd love to bring you back. On a better episode than this, because we got to talk and give you praise that you deserve for this season. You've been killing it this season, so thank you, Nicole.
You say a better episode than this, but after the break, I'm going to prove to you this is one of the best episodes, not just of Deep Space Nine, but of Star Trek ever.
Stay tuned.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, thanks very much, Nikki. We really appreciate your time. As always, can't wait to see you again real soon.
Thank you, Nikki.
And everybody at home, stick around. We'll be right back on the Seventh Rule so fast. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and man, I did not realize there would be so much to talk about in this episode. But like, I'm sitting here raring to go to just get more into it. I was kind of sad that Nikki was leaving us, because I was like, man, we are on a roll. We're all like, it was good. They should have changed. You know what I think? And we are just going nuts with this. And we started off talking about Sirach's book club. You guys, you tuned in on the right day. We are going ballistic with this episode. So real quick, actually, that would be fun though. Like a top 10 book club thing. And then, or maybe like a top 3, and then you change it every month to a different 3 for people to check out.
Yeah. We could start polling other actors, find out what they like.
Mm-hmm. I think I've read like 10 to 15 books in my life. And that
Good.
I have never even read a book that I did a book report for in school. Like I don't think
unless it was mandated to you, you didn't read it.
I'm telling you, every book report I ever did in school, I did not actually read the book. There's no way. Because I spent my whole time just reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy over and over again. I just kept rereading those books, or like, a couple sports books. But anyway, or I read some Star Wars books in French, which is fun. La Guerre des Étoiles. Anyway.
You see, kids, that's how you turn out like Ryan.
Don't do it. It may seem so glamorous, but it's not. Yeah, read books.
Read the book.
My vocabulary is like 300 words because of this. Anyway, so real quick, here are the trivioids of the week. I only know 2/3 of the words I've written here. Jadzia's Gach is waiting for Ezri in Cargo Bay 2. Miles O'Brien is in New Sydney and following some promising leads. Ezri Dax has been promoted to Lieutenant Junior Grade. I wish we could have talked to Nikki about that a bit more. Corella is working on a very special dinner. The Andorian Academy is the best art school. Norvo has a hangover. Norvo doesn't feel like he wants to be analyzed by his sister. And Morika Bilby was a shipping consultant. And must have been really good because she kept getting a pay raise. Okay, so back to this episode. I think we're all kind of circling the wagons on this one, because I think really what it was, at least for me personally, was I was really excited to see a Miles and Ezri episode, especially because Ezri is a new character. So I want to see a Miles and Ezri episode. We got to see an Ezri with the Siskos episode, and so that was really cool, really interesting. We got to kind of sink into our teeth into the new character and the new dynamics of those characters with her. And I thought we were going to get that with Miles, and we just didn't quite get it. And I really feel like there was some gold here between these two characters that we didn't quite get, with O'Brien being like the wise veteran, and Ezri being like the young and naive. However, Ezri is his superior officer. So she is telling him what to do. And
I have a nitpick with that.
Get him.
I got a nitpick.
Tell him,
with
soldier
that.
boy.
I don't have a tie, but it's just, how can you be Miles' superior officer when this guy's been on Star Trek since the 70s, man? There's no way you can just come 70s. On in a season 7 and just outrank this guy. It's junior grade.
That's the beauty of it. He's chief petty officer. Now, I don't know much about military stuff, but what that means is he's like a specialist kind of thing. So he doesn't really hold rank. He can be in charge of people within his, group or whatever, but he does not go through rank. So even, I believe, probably an ensign outranks him as well, because he's not a ranking officer. He's a specialist, like an engineer or a waste extraction guy or a cook or anything like that.
Okay, so when you need more power, call the cook. Okay,
they'll give you lots of protein.
When you need when the shields are down, there's no way that this guy, who's so responsible basically for everybody's life in so many ways, every time it's the engineer that I need more power. I need you to fix this. I need this. I need that. That guy's got to have way more say than the new girl who just comes in, the new kid on the block who just walks in,
right?
And looks, who's just there for 3 days.
And this
is crazy to me.
This is what I always find so fascinating with this kind of stuff. And people that have been in the military know way more about this than I do. But basically, for example, on a starship, the chief engineer is going to be pretty high ranking. Like at the end of Next Generation, Geordi was a lieutenant commander, right? Same thing with, say, Voyager. Bailana Torres was a lieutenant and then became lieutenant commander, I believe. Now, he's the chief engineer, but he's not on a starship. He's more like they're on a space station initially. So really what he was the maintenance guy. He is just the highest ranking maintenance guy, Mr. Fix-It. He wasn't like, this wasn't really like a Starfleet vessel. So what So that's why it's so tough on him, because he's like the highest ranking maintenance guy, but they're using him as a chief engineer on the Defiant, which is an actual ship. So we all see him as a high ranking chief engineer, but really his role was supposed to be much lower as far as, Starfleet command is concerned.
Yeah, I just feel like your rank should be determined on your value to the equation. And to me, the guy who keeps everything running is more valuable than the person who's the psychological, can tell you your feelings and stuff. Like, okay, your feelings are great, but we need power. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Wait till Sirach sees Counselor Troy. She definitely outranks a lot of people. But no, I get it. And that's what made it such a fun and interesting dynamic, was when she said, "That's an order," to Chief O'Brien. Everybody kind of for a second was like, "Wait, what?" And then you go, "Oh, yeah, I guess
step back." And I was like, "Who's the boss here?" I actually had to ask myself, "Hey man, who's the boss over here?" Because this guy was on the Next Generation. Do you know who this guy is?
Yeah, this is like his 11th season in Star Trek.
Yeah, you're giving out orders. So I thought that was kind of, and when she says Lieutenant Junior grade, I was like, okay. Well, she just pulled rank on him. But, it was definitely the highlight of the episode was that I mentioned it earlier. It's hard when you have one guest star, trying to blend them in, unless they're fantastic, like the guy who was in Duet and all of these other people. But it's hard to blend in one guest star and make him fantastic. If he is fantastic, then it'll work. But you have 3, maybe 4 in this episode, I think. Right,
like 5 even. There were a couple of that alien race that I like. There was the cop guy that brought in O'Brien, but then there was also the guy that was talking in the mines as well. So
Thaddeus Bakar or something like that.
Yeah.
So the Orion Syndicate guy, he was kind of introduced. So I'm like, and then we're talking about Bilby, another guy who only had really one episode that I can remember, and I can't remember what he looked like or who he was. I couldn't think of it. And I wasn't going to do all this research while I was watching it. So for me, it was like, so we have all new people talking about a guy who came in one time, whose wife is like the guy. It's like my cousin's sister's brother's uncle's nephew. It started to get real distant. You know what I mean? So
yeah. This was Bilby. If you'll recall, this was an episode in which Miles O'Brien goes to infiltrate the Orion Syndicate for Starfleet intelligence here. And remember, he befriended this old guy and then ended up having to betray him. And you guys said it was just like, what was the movie? I can't remember.
Oh, Donnie Brasco?
Donnie Brasco, exactly. That's what it was. So that was Bilby. And that is the only time we ever see him. And so I think what it boiled down to was it probably went something like this. They want a backstory episode for Ezri and her family. And they've got an idea of how it works and what her family's like and what they do. But then they need a reason, a plot device for why Ezri is on that planet. They need a reason for why somebody else from the cast is on that planet, because we all know they need a second person. You can't just have Ezri carrying the entire episode by herself and nobody else. You always have Odo there with Chief. You always have Rom with Quark when Quark goes down to the Klingon homeworld. You always need that second familiar face for the character and for the audience. And so I think it was just kind of like that plot device where they just kind of said, okay, well, why don't we just do O'Brien? Okay, well, why is O'Brien there? Well, maybe he's following a lead for the Orion Syndicate. It's like a callback to the Bilby thing. I think they just kind of reverse engineered it where they knew what they wanted and what they needed. And they just said, well, this will work. It could have just as easily been Julian Bashir going down to visit his parents or something like that,
Yeah. Like I said, too much. I think, when you have to like construct it so much, and you're like, whoa, we need a reason, and then Bilby's wife, like I barely knew who Bilby was. Now Bilby's wife, and why would O'Brien supersede whatever Starfleet intelligence he has access to, or whatever investigatory body there is on that homeworld area? Why wouldn't he just report it? And it just seemed like, he wasn't asked by Section 31 or any in a group to do this kind of investigation. He just woke up one day and said, "Hey, I wonder what Bilby's wife is doing." It just, let me go find her on this.
What do you think of this?
It just doesn't work for me.
It just kind of hit me as to what I think. And of course we're always playing amateur writer here. We don't know what it's like, but what I think may have made it flow more easily is, what if it felt like the B plot was the Orion Syndicate stuff, even though it was tied in with the A plot, and the A plot was the family dynamic. What if they reversed those? What if it was about Ezri and Chief O'Brien going to solve this mystery together? And that's the A plot. They're trying to figure out what's going on with the Orion Syndicate. They're working with each other. They're getting into arguments. They come to a mutual understanding. O'Brien shows his wisdom. She shows why she can be an officer, those kind of things, right? And then the B plot is we meet Ezri's family, and we get a little bit of the family dynamic background. Then I feel like that would have sold the story to me. If the episode began in the conference room, Sisko is there with one of these admirals or whoever from Section 31, one of these guys, right? And Sisko says, "I called you in here because this gentleman, has informed me about this thing going on with the Orion Syndicate, and he wants to debrief you about whatever it is." Now, this new person, Starfleet guy, whatever, intelligence guy, says, "Hey, I need you to go and investigate this. The reason I'm picking you two is, one, Miles, Bilby, it's his wife that's missing. We want you to go there. And number two, Ezri, we want you to go because your mom is well connected and da-da-da-da." So they would have been selected. And then the episode follows the two of them on that mission, with the other stuff kind of being the additional background stuff.
I would have bought that. And then the backstory about your mom and all the stuff, it could become backstory, not so much A plot. It'll become B plot, and let them investigating the Orion Syndicate be the A plot story. They could have been working with an agent over there that's also an undercover kind of Starfleet agent. Here's your contact. Turns out her contact is her own brother. He had an alias name. You know what I mean? Like they could have brought her brother and family in it on a different way.
What's so funny about this is that every once in a while I think, what are we going to talk about in this review? Sometimes we watch episodes and I'm like, oh my God, Sirach's going to have so much to say, and I'm going to have so much to say. And then other episodes, I'm like, what are we going to even talk about? And this was one of those where I'm like, I'm curious what the conversation is going to be about. And now I'm realizing that these are the ones that these kinds of episodes tend to spur up the most amount of conversation with us, because they always have some interesting elements. And we're sitting there going, it could have been so much better if we just got this, or, you know what I mean? Because we want to know Ezri's backstory, and we want to be interested in this thing, and we want to see what's going on with the Orion Syndicate and a murder mystery, and we want to see O'Brien and Ezri come together. And there's all these elements we're super excited about. And then for one reason or another, whether it was rushed or whether it was how they, put the plots together, but whatever it is, it kind of doesn't really work for us. And so we're just left sitting there going, like, it's kind of like Seinfeld's joke about, like, when you eat that final cookie, but you don't realize it was the final cookie, then you're just waiting for that. You want that final cookie enjoyment, and you reach back in that bag and it's not there. And we're kind of left sitting there going, like, we almost had something,
It was almost there. Yeah. And to me, they wasted the Orion Syndicate. So you're telling me the Orion Syndicate basically had nothing to do with this then?
That's right. We didn't even have to do the Orion Syndicate at all.
Right. So this deadly terrorist organization that goes around and bullies and mafias people, they didn't have anything to do with this. So it all comes down to her brother having pressure because of the mom,
We didn't even get to see the Orions, right?
Yeah. So this was a waste of the Orion Syndicate. It was like, it should have been them responsible for what's going on. They should have been extorting their family. They should have been threatening to kill somebody if they say something about something.
These are the Orions, by the way. This is them on Enterprise with our good buddy Dominic Keating. The Orions, they are badass. They're like, without giving any spoilers, they are basically like a pirate group, and then look at, these are the men right here. I mean, they've got a rich and storied history with a lot of details, and they're super interesting. And every time I hear the Orions mentioned, I get really excited. I'm like, oh, great pirate stuff, or like, mob. They're like mob bosses, and we didn't get to even see
we know why you get really excited. But
I actually like the Orions a lot. Yeah, because so much to be done with them.
Yeah, I would have been happy had the Orion Syndicate actually had some kind of bigger story line in this and was actually responsible for doing some of this damage. It just was like it was a poorly constructed murder mystery to me that had way too many like random, oh, here comes Chief O'Brien. He, we didn't put those bruises on his face. It's like all that stuff was like a little bit ridiculous to me.
Check this out, by the way. One last thing is also the Orions have had a lot of special guests stars, including the WWE's Big Show. That's him with Jolene Blaylock. He's giant.
Really?
Yeah, I believe they also had The Rock involved. But anyway, so there's a lot that could be done there because they are, they're organized crime. They're basically like the biggest organized crime group in the quadrant.
And I would have been totally cool with it being an Orion kind of investigation episode, an infiltration. Starfleet tasked them because they have certain connections or to the storyline. That would have made sense for me. It was just a bunch of loose ends. Wasn't well thought out. I did love the scenes between Ezri and O'Brien. I thought they really did work well together. Like there's chemistry between them. There was also a moment when I saw that when the whole Gach scene, I was busting out laughing. I couldn't help it. But the thing that really got me was when Ezri said, just dump it in, just throw it out of the airlock. And Odo's answer was, environmental regulations.
Yeah.
And I was just laughing my head. I was like, yeah, environmental regulations.
That's another thing I wanted to ask Nikki, actually. There are a couple things. One was, how the heck do you memorize all those different kinds of Gach, right? That must have been like, that I feel like that was her real introduction to Star Trek when she's on episode 11 and she's like, I'm supposed to memorize this? And they're like, yes, please, by tomorrow, please. Thanks. And then she's like, I don't know how to pronounce these things and I have to memorize them. The other one I really was curious about, we'll have to ask her another time, is where did they shoot this episode? Because I was constantly putting in my notes, wow, great set decoration, great interior design, great locate. That was the big standout for me in this episode that they actually nailed. I was like, how did they get such a great location or build such a great location in such a limited time? And I was really curious to know if that was shot on the stages or if they found a location.
Yeah, from my eye, that was on the sound stage.
Really?
And there was one sound stage that we always used to convert for whatever purpose. So one sound stage, which I believe is 4, was the promenade. And the promenade essentially took up an entire soundstage.
I bet.
And then the other soundstage was the ops and like the Sisko's quarters.
Do you remember what
hallway.
soundstage that was?
I believe that was 18, because we did 4, 18, and 17.
Okay.
So I'm thinking 17 was the one that was always converting, and that would be the caves. For example, when we did the caves, that would be the caves. When we
love those caves.
Yeah, when we did Explorers and we built that little solar sail ship, they built that ship in that soundstage, and it would always be just repurposed for whatever planet we were on or whatever. I even think that they did a camping episode there when Sisko and Quark are camping in the wild, and they're burning that fire. If I'm not mistaken, that's actually an indoor set.
Looked like it. It looked like it. And Jake and Nog were there with them too. That was when they first meet the Vorta.
Yeah.
And
if I'm not mistaken, that's an indoor staged set. That's not actually on location, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
But yeah, so that soundstage was always being converted. So my guess is, they just built that set. They have all those little trinkets and stuff, those little wine bottles and all those little decorations that they put everywhere. And they just hooked it up.
I was like, how did they have the time to put all that stuff together? It looked really intricate and it looked really good. And my eye just kept getting attracted to these things, thinking how they didn't have enough time to prepare for this to work in my mind. I don't know how they put all this together, especially like the set design. Like, where did they get all these items? Did they build them all? Especially in Norvo's room, he had so many things going on. So, big shout out to the set designer, the production designer, I should say, set decorator. That there's just so much there. I wonder what was already built and what they just knocked out super quick.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I read it here in the companion. They said after Norvo served his time, he came out and changed his name to Norville.
Okay.
So.
There we go. See, there we go. Well, anyway, everybody, that's all the time we have until the free-for-all up next, everybody. Mercifully, we do have the free-for-all coming up in just 30 seconds. But before we do that, we'd like to give a very hearty and healthy shout out and thank you to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England, Yvette Blackmon, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, Tim Baum, TJ Jackson-Bey, Bill Victor Arucan, Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Polat, Erika Stroem, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, DQ, Neal Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, a.k.a. Crewman Guy, and of course, everybody knows Dr. Susan V. Gruner.
Yep.
Right now, everybody's like, why did he say everything like that? No idea. Stick around for the free-for-all. We'll be right back on the seventh rule. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the seventh rule. It is time for a very lively discussion we like to call the free-for-all. Today, joining us, Tierney C. Dieckmann out on the road somewhere, Sue Gruner, hovering around Deep Space Nine with a really cool seventh rule shirt, by the way. There it is. Melissa Longo is also here sporting a nice smile. Eve England is wearing a cool Star Trek shirt. Is that a Abyssinian kiosk?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Glorious. TJ Jackson-Bey hanging out with us. He's going to drop some knowledge on us. Grandpa One is wearing a Scott Jensen creation. It is the isolinear chip design of the seventh rule shirt with Aaron Eisenberg's birthday on it. Carrie Schwent is here. She's going to teach us some things, I just bet. Dr. Mohamed Noor is going to be here. He will not laugh once in this entire free-for-all. He is ready. He is.
You just did.
Hold it back. Hold it back.
Homer Frizzell will laugh nonstop throughout this whole free-for-all. That's for sure. He's a laugher. Goldie Scott is here hanging out with us, looking rad. Faith Howell is here also hanging out around Deep Space Nine. Welcome, Faith Howell. We have Rex A. Wood is here, who is responsible for two of us wearing cool badges from Trekkers Against Bullying. And Dr. Marie Segal is here, whose brain is going a mile a minute right now, and she doesn't know which thought she wants to actually verbalize yet. None of them, I guess. All right. Let's have some fun and talk. Oh, wait.
No, but wait, I am wearing a Seventh Rule shirt.
Awesome.
Ranky eyes.
That's the one. Very cool.
Store.
Get it at our Teespring store, everybody. Grandpa One had a good laugh there. Okay. First things first, you guys, before we forget. Yep. Homer knows.
No.
Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score. Now remember, it's not a Cirroc Lofton score. It's Cirroc Lofton guessing what the score is on IMDb.
Oh, that's what it is.
Easy peasy.
This one, I don't know. I think people are going to like this one. I'm going to go with a solid 9, as in the square root of.
A plus.
Oh my God.
Do any of you have any guesses that don't already know the score? So far, we've got the low bar of a 3. Anybody want to go $1 or you want to go higher?
No.
$1.
It's difficult.
Oh my God.
5.5. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Like a 5.6-ish, yeah.
Yeah.
Around there.
6.1.
Wow.
6.1.
The scores are always way off, so I'm going to go, it's going to be higher than we want it to be.
Excuse me. Oh, wait.
It's going to be
Sue,
higher for the first
We need
time.
you, Sue. Are you? Does it deserve a 10?
No.
It's pretty low.
I just can't believe that.
Wow.
That
Where is it relative to Meridian?
higher, I
Oh.
think.
I don't know.
Shades of Green Meridian.
Higher, I think. This
I
is.
agree. I put it higher than Meridian too.
Meridian.
Did you guys catch that Eve England threw British shade on this thing? She
Yeah.
snuck in. It's.
Proud of her.
Yes.
She said
I
it's
know,
going to be
great.
higher than we want it to be.
So polite.
Love it.
Okay. The answer is somebody said 6.1. They were very close. Who said TJ? It's a
TJ.
6.3. Very nicely done.
Woohoo.
This scale is off, because if this is a 6.3, they gave a Nog episode 2 episodes back like a 7 something. There's no way that this is barely, worse than that episode. It's crazy.
I could have sworn it was a 6.4 when I looked at it the other day. Did it drop?
Maybe all of you just watched it last night.
Have revenge on it.
This is what we need to go in and mark it down to bring that right down, rather than doing a 10 like we normally
Just
do.
bring the Nog one up.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so also, did you guys catch the NAMs in this one? There are quite a few little NAMs poking around.
Yeah,
in
there
this
were.
one.
Billsby.
Bunch of hosts.
I
Billby.
just caught Bixby.
Is it Bixby? Bixby or Bilby?
Bilby.
Bilby.
It is Bilby. Yeah.
Rigby.
The wife.
And the wife.
Wife.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen the wife? Have we ever
No.
seen
In
her?
pictures.
In it?
Delete the
In a
wife.
picture.
Just the picture.
Saw the cat before I saw the wife.
I won't get
Also,
started on
Martok.
names.
We had a Martok Nam. as well.
Yes. With all the gawk.
Or talks God.
All right. Melissa Longo, can you tell
Yeah.
us why this is a top 10 Deep Space Nine episode?
Because the opening scene is wonderful. For me, that was a highlight of the entire episode. If it could have been more like the opening scene then, or the teaser, then I would have enjoyed this episode more than I did. Yeah, just the discussion about the duck and which was great, and it felt like a little slice of life on DS9, which I love those moments. I love the little slice of life moments. So, but Ezri had some funny lines by saying, "Hi, it's me, Curzon." I thought that was a funny line. And asking whether she's a man or a woman when she wakes up in the morning and has to pull back the covers to check.
Did you guys see the mom's reaction shot? That slayed me. She just went, oh.
So good.
I didn't see the reaction like you said.
It was a super quick one. It was just a quick little shot.
A quick one.
Oh,
That's
so
because
good.
you recognize that look, Ryan.
Yeah.
Just picture that look every time you say a pun.
Oh,
I know. It's okay, Mohamed. I deserve it. I've got it coming. It's all
That's
true.
the agonizer for you.
Sirach is like equal parts encouraging and discouraging when I make those jokes. Sometimes he laughs, half the times he goes, he just drops his head.
Practice does make perfect, and just he's got some really good ones in there too.
Yeah, they're
True.
great. They're wonderful. But before I
Reaction
give you
means
the
he did the
laugh,
right
I'm going to
thing.
give you the look.
She's got the look. Okay.
I don't know. I think Ryan's average is lower than a left-handed pitcher, but anyway, go ahead.
Oh. Well, wait.
Baseball pun there.
Oh, I see a
Baseball
batting
player.
average of a left-handed pitcher. Ouch. Yeah, that's going to be like 190 or something. You baseball nerds. Well, instead of going in order here, I want to skip ahead because Homer mentioned something in our chat right now that I think everybody deserves to hear, which was something we just only mentioned at the very end of our initial recording. Homer, can you talk about the architecture of this episode and the set design and the locations? And really, I thought was a shining beacon of this one.
There were a lot of shining beacons, but if we are to single out one, then absolutely the set, and then the painting or whatever that is behind me, which is based on, of course, Falling Water by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Really?
Beautiful building, and they showed it to us at least 4 times. So it's kind of nice. Maybe having a nice building like that would make it worthwhile to live on what looks like a junk heap. I don't know, but man. And the set from the companion, sorry to steal your thunder, Eve. It's the Vic's place that they had redressed. So the stage is where we see the fireplace. But since it's my my moment here, I'll just say this episode, I would have rather heard more about Chester, the cat, and know what the cat was up to than where they went with this. And I think maybe O'Brien would have been more invested in that. No, I don't know.
Did we get a Chester Nam? I was listening for him.
No,
We did not. A missed opportunity.
Mhm.
Really quickly, Homer, you said based on Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water?
Yeah. So that's the name of a building that's in Pennsylvania. I forget where exactly. So it's a real building that they decided to use and then put into Star Trek, modified slightly to put it on a junk heap.
Is that the one that has the water running through the living room?
There is running water. I'd have to go back and see if it's
Yeah,
the
it's
living room or
underneath.
if
It's just
outside.
right underneath it. Yes, it's running water.
Yeah, that's or falling water. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, the companion has a picture of the original sketch, which looks more like the actual building.
Ooh, hang on one second. There it is.
You see that?
Nice.
I don't really recognize
Very
it.
cool.
Yeah, it's a private residence in Pennsylvania. It was a house.
Oh, they use that for. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Never
No,
mind.
I mean, it was just recently, about 5 years ago, the family that bought it had to spend a lot of money to shore it up because the stresses of it being, it spans across a small stream waterfall.
Right.
So I think it was 4 or 5 years ago this family bought it, and they've spent a lot of money shoring it up. But for all I know, it could have been 10 years ago because my time as you get older. Oh yeah, just a couple of years ago. Dude, that was 1990. Oh, okay.
Couple.
Missed the 90s.
They were fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. We were all infants.
And Ryan, that's all I have. in
Speak
my
for
notes.
yourself.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what Sirach has in his notes to back up his three.
Good point. Now that we're recording, Srog, would you like to show your notes again for everybody?
Yeah, this is what I came up with here. You see, this is the beginning, the middle, and there's the ending.
Nice sketches too.
Top tier.
All right.
Flawless.
All right. Back to work, everybody. Dr. Susan V. Gruner, how did you feel about this episode? Did you 10 it like David?
No freaking way. What I liked about it was the art, the architecture. It was very Art Deco-y inside that house or condo or whatever it was. Erte-esque, I liked that. I'm trying to think what else did I like. I thought it was very bizarre that Ezri comes from such a dysfunctional family. How is that possible? They were so screwed up, all of them, her. And that was a little weird, I thought.
That's why she left.
Yes.
Why she's a therapist.
She
She had to become one. She had to become one for her family.
I can't think of it.
Do you think there was no part of you when meeting Ezri's family that made you think like, okay, that tracks, or I could see why she was a little unsure of herself in some ways or underprepared in other ways? I mean, was there anything that you recognized in there, or did you just think you didn't see it? No connection.
Well, she insinuated that they were all put down by the mother, but she doesn't act like her character. She's insecure, but yet she's not. I think she's a wise old soul. I don't know if that's how she was before she had the Dax symbiont in her or not, but I just don't see her coming from a family that has a murderer in it, and it's just terribly dysfunctional in all ways. Not knowing what's going on with each other. It's just strange.
She has a murder in her past life too.
Yeah.
Builds inner strength. Okay. Well, Eve England out in Wales, what have you got for us today? Probably some cool stuff from the companion, because we had a lot of questions about this episode. Did it answer any of those in the companion? Like Nikki mentioned that this might have been a rushed episode that was written quickly, but she wasn't sure if she remembered that
This was
correctly.
like a 5th rewrite or something.
Yeah, because I watched it, and again, same as everyone else, I was kind of a bit of a meh episode. And then the companion basically says that this wasn't the original idea for this particular episodes. They were going to do a big Sisko versus Sisko episodes where future Sisko goes back and meets past Sisko, and they have a sort of a bit of a standoff about doing certain things, but they said it didn't really go anywhere. But then I think they only had about two or 3 weeks before production started, before they kind of parked that idea and had to come up with something else. And then Ira apparently had this great idea that thought that it'd be really good to, do a bit of an Ezri backstory. And one of his main ideas was, let's do a Ezri mafia princess episode. Everyone thought that was really cool. It was like just a good way of bringing her backstory into, because obviously we knew so much about Jadzia, but they just said they ran out of time. They started off doing it so that the family was actually going to be a really powerful part of the syndicate. And that is somehow even Ezri having the Dax symbiont was something that they engineered as a family, but then they kind of went back and thought, do you know what, that's not going to work, because then that makes Starfleet look like they've been manipulated too much. And then again, I think they had a couple of days literally to then get to where this episode was. So they just tried to bring lots of things together. They knew they had to then bring O'Brien in to kind of make it all work. And yeah, so they say in here that they totally admit that it didn't come together and it was very much ended up being a soap opera. So that explains a lot of things. Because I was kind of like, it had parts of it that I thought this could have been quite interesting, but it just didn't come together at the end. And they didn't really do it justice. So that was quite interesting in the companion about all of that. So Nikki was right. It definitely was a sort of last minute. So I think actually, considering they did it in a few days, I don't think it's actually that bad. There are some worse episodes in my view. Meridian, for example. And I agree with everyone else. I just loved all the way that they transformed Vix was amazing. I particularly liked all of the wine glasses they had. They had those like purple stemmed glasses, which I just need some of those. And then just one interesting fact that I did spot, and how they're so good at reusing things. The piece of kit they had in the mine, and O'Brien was fixing it, and it was kind of that big circle Dalek looking thing. That's the same container that Quark hid in with all the latinum in Who Mourns for Mourn, I think. Right. And I was like, I really recognize that. Yeah. And I went back and I was like, oh yeah, it's the one where Quark sort of hides in there in that shootout at the end in the cargo bay. I thought that was quite funny.
That's cool. Good knowledge.
So it's good to see how it's amazing. I thought that was I think it really showed what the production guys and creative teams can really do with what they've got, that they can, reuse things like they do without you really noticing. I think that's, it just shows how creative and talented they all were.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And Vic's place too. That was another interesting little tidbit there, because I was trying to figure that out. I'm always trying to figure out where they're trying to repurpose things, but I can never catch it. TJ Jackson-Bey catches it every single time. How are you, TJ? Tell everybody how wrong they are about this top 10 episode.
Everybody is so wrong about this episode. I appreciated Norvo's story. It's, I think, a good example of how people who are constantly barraged with somebody else's opinion about someone will tend to adopt that opinion of themselves. I think that's something that, to some degree, everybody goes through. And it takes, some real work on self to, be able to, do the work of, determining what my own opinion of myself is versus, did I adopt this opinion from feedback that I got from somebody else? Mm-hmm. And then, I have to determine whether or not that feedback is true. And that's something that, Norvo unfortunately wasn't able to do. So, he just took on all of those opinions, and that's how he ended up how he was. And ended up in this situation where he felt like he needed to kill somebody to prove that he was not the things that all of those opinions that he adopted of himself, he wanted to prove that he wasn't that. Mm-hmm. And also, at the end, Ezri's kind of having her own bit of struggle as to whether or not she could have done any more. And, I think it's, perfectly makes sense that she came from this kind of dysfunctional household where, you know, she was able to get away from that and kind of do something for herself that she wanted to do. And now she feels like she should have gone back. And I don't 100% agree with that. I think that, you know, she did what she had to do to get out of that situation, or she could have been the one that was, you know, all beaten down and, you know, not able to kind of think for herself and know, you know, what her own thoughts was, which is interesting because she has that experience taking on the symbiote and, you know, trying to, again, figure out, you know, whether she's a male or a female, or, you know, whether she had kids or that was, you know, somebody else's kids in a prior life. So she's kind of going through this same identity crisis, but she's doing it in a different way. And she's able to face up to it. And she is able to, you know, because of the experience she has, help other people in her counseling role. And I think, you know, the only sin this episode has is that it's, you know, in season 7. And so there's really no opportunity to go back and follow up on the roots that were created here. And, you know, so for that reason, you know, it just kind of stands alone, and it doesn't really, you know, no tree grew from the roots. And so, you know, this root episode is just a root. It's a Leola root, in fact.
Oh, knowledge. TJ, real quick, you mentioned kind of the moral at the very end, which was the mom pressured the kid, and he was just so pressured and so stressed that he went and did something crazy. And I feel like at that very final moment, I was like, oh wow, a nice important, interesting nugget for us to hang on to, you know, like every episode does. Do you think that they hit that point well, or do you think they just kind of, you know, did they just kind of slide it in, or do you feel like that point they're making landed?
It's very subtle. It's subtle, and the second moral too, the one with, you know, Ezri, you know, feeling like she can go and fix other people, because that's, you know, absolutely not true too. But they also left that one open for the audience to, you know, kind of determine right at the end when she's having that conversation with the chief. And, you know, that was kind of the moral that I took away from it was, you know, this, you know, kind of, you know, okay, could I, you know, go back and help somebody else and change that outcome? And, you know, the answer is random. Like, okay, so that's kind of not her, it's her responsibility, but it's not her responsibility, in that she's not responsible for, you know, what somebody else does. And she wouldn't be able to, you know, to help if she found herself, you know, back in the same situation. She needed the space. You know, just like, you know, he could have used some space. She got the space and he didn't. But she's, you know, she's not able to go back and give him, you know, the same space that she had to be who she is.
It shows that she had the tools that her brother didn't have to save herself.
Right.
Because
interesting. Good stuff, man. Thanks. Everybody. Oh, I'm so sorry. Please continue.
You're good. My last thing is like, okay, so I'm back to this house and it being in a junk heap. Always, I think, you know, when every one of these characters goes home, it's always to some, you know, super awesome location or some influential, you know, family or something. And I'm like, does anybody just come from like a, you know, a regular old house that's, you know, not awesome and huge and and great? Like Picard has this big chateau that he goes home to. And then I asked myself, does anybody just live in the city? And it wasn't until like a few minutes ago, I'm like, yeah, Joseph Sisko lives in the city. So kudos.
Rio Kitchen.
Yeah.
We didn't grow up rich like that. We just grew up, you know, middle class family. You know, we got a little restaurant. We make ends meet. But we also do the work. We clean our own oysters.
It's honest
There you
work.
And I think you lived in the rest. He
Carry
lived in
on
the
potato
restaurant
bags.
too, upstairs. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So we didn't come from. We come from very, meager and modest background, the Siskos. But yeah, I noticed that too, because even like Bashir's parents, weren't they like wealthy, like
Yeah.
diplomatic type of
No,
like
his-
Wealthy
doctor?
enough to find somebody to genetically
Yeah,
engineer.
Dad was just like low
Up to
tier
eugenics.
on a ship and pretended to be more important.
Right.
Ooh.
Right.
Interesting.
And Quark and Rom didn't grow up in a mansion either.
Right, right.
Low
She just
ceilings.
has a posh accent.
Right.
Good stuff, TJ. Good stuff. Everybody in the live chat, if you're in the live chat or in the comments below, please let us know what you think of this. Homer has got quite the debate going on right now. When you say the word sledgehammer, do you think of the song or the TV show?
Song.
Because
hammer.
that's,
Me.
What about the actual hammer?
Yeah, what about the hammer?
that doesn't count. All right. Speaking of doesn't count, Grandpa One has never counted anything in his life. He says no numbers. He refuses. What do you think of this episode? And cool shirt, by the way.
I'm going to deviate. I really, really enjoyed this episode.
Yes.
But it also has one of my biggest nitpicks of all Star Trek.
Wow.
All Star Trek.
There was
Get
no time
ready.
travel.
Get ready, everybody.
No time travel. So
The very first scene when they're she wants to get rid of the Gok. Oh, we can't do that. This rule, that rule. I'm like, if I'm not mistaken, they got phasers that vaporize people. Couldn't they just vaporize? She's like, send it out the airlock. No, environmental concerns. I'm like, just shoot the case with a phaser. Anyway, we've seen people disappear. Anyway,
Or recycle it in the
Have it down waste
replicator.
extraction.
That's where they put all the waste anyway.
Well, what about when
Right.
they blow up all those ships in space? Do they ever think about the environmental impact?
What if there's Gok on those ships?
How about meals?
There's no Gok on those ships, huh?
they ate
How
it before
about-
it blew up.
How about Meals on Wheels for Klingons?
yeah.
I mean,
Hey.
we give it to them and say, here you go. Let's get these out the,
The homeless
that's
Klingons.
homeless
Um,
Klingons.
Maybe
Right.
they'd be great to use in the Sisko's pastime that we saw them do in their very first scene together. Jake and his dad
Fishing.
were fishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Beach
There's
and
a lot of
sharks
fishing
for that
to
much.
There you go.
Good nitpick. Good
Uh,
nitpick. Tim.
But no,
We caught some
what-
Gok.
what I liked about this episode is because Ezri came on the show and we had virtually no backstory. And, with Jadzia, we had 6 years to put in a backstory of what the Trills are, how she became that. I would have preferred this episode earlier in the season as kind of like a standalone. This is how Ezri got where she got. But a couple of things that stood out, at least I took away from it, was that, in the earlier seasons, Jadzia, they bring up that becoming a host is the pinnacle of being a Trill. It's, you're the best of the best that are selected. Well, then we see her family who are industry scions. And it's like, to the way her mother reacted, it's like, being a host is what other families do. We're wealthy and run a business, so we don't do things like that. And of course they brought up the fact that she was unprepared to be a host, but that was one of my favorite parts of it, was that, we actually got a backstory and that it kind of deviated from what we thought about when, being a host, it's not necessarily the elite. That's what other kids do. So that's one of the, and I like the family dynamic. It's like, you could tell that they really were not happy with her joining Starfleet. You get the impression the mother's like, you're going to be growing up to run the mining business.
Mhm.
And she runs off and joins Starfleet. Managed to bully the younger son into staying around, even though he wanted to follow his art. So yeah, I thought I would have given this an IMDb a 7.4.
Nice.
But I thought it was very important to have some backstory for Ezri. But like I said, I would have preferred it earlier in the season, like the 4th or 5th episode of the season. But so there you go. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Well, so it seems very split. It seems like half of you love this episode and half of you don't so far. Will Carrie, what side are you on? Are you on the love or the less love?
Little bit of both, if I'm being honest. It's not one of my favorites, but I wouldn't skip it.
Okay.
If that makes any sense at all. I enjoy the soap opera bits of it, the awkward family dinners. I was raised on General Hospital, and there's no shortage of awkward family dinners on that show. So I definitely feel for that. You've got the one brother who feels like he has to do all of the working with the mine, and you got the brother who wants to be an art but kind of gets dragged in because the one of the siblings manages to get away and do her own thing, so the younger one left behind is stuck doing what she probably would have ended up doing if she hadn't left. And yeah, Ezri is definitely my spirit animal. I feel her awkwardness, the way she says something about her unfortunate tendency to ramble.
Yeah,
I absolutely feel that. My absolute favorite part of the entire episode is that scene at the beginning. I finished watching the episode and then I backed up to the beginning again to watch that first scene one more time just to get some more laughs in. Just her rambling off just the various varieties of Gok and just watching her just become more and more uncomfortable, and Julian sitting there just in his own world, like whatever, man, until she coughs or whatever. And he's like, oh, wait, what? Because he misses his friend. He wants to go to the Alamo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did not take very many notes for this one. I did barely manage to squeak out a haiku, so get that out of the way. O'Brien missing. Ezri has family issues. Norvo killed the girl. Yeah, trying to distill that one into a haiku was definitely the biggest challenge so far, because I wanted to add something with the Orions, but that's too many syllables and it doesn't leave anything out, any room for any other words. So that's sort of what I ended up with. And mom using the emotional blackmail to get her to come visit. I'm very familiar with that. Like, you don't call for a while. Oh, we miss you. You should come by more often. Yeah, I understand that completely. Absolutely, completely. I think if I had any other. Yeah, the whole bit with the Gok is just absolutely makes the episode for sure. I kind of wish they'd have done something with the Gok at like the end of the episode too, like her complaining about miles or something.
Yeah, close it out.
Like, hey, you're an engineer. Do you have any ideas for helping me get rid of this? Because he probably would have had an idea or two, I'd like to think.
They'd be like, send it to Ezri's mom.
Yeah.
Our condolences on your murder, baby.
We at the No J Consortium buy Gok at 50% below market.
Yeah, using that one variety of Gok for fishing though would be tricky because it's got feet. It would run away.
Is it Ga or Gok? I couldn't figure that part out.
So yes and no. That's
everybody
exactly.
clean your screens now.
Like you're ready to
That doesn't necessarily answer my question. I couldn't hear what letter we were ending on, but okay, it's a.
That's exactly it.
We'll all let Eve tell you how to pronounce it.
It's definitely the Welsh pronunciation. Yeah.
We don't know what that means.
I do a little bit, but I visited there.
Okay. On to somebody who knows what everything means. Dr. Mohamed Noor, what have you got for us today? Everybody right now, you can't see it, but we're having quite a lively discussion right now in our own chat. Homer's line killed me. He says it could have been an unaired pilot. And Faith mentions that that gach could be good vol snacks, so that's a good one. But what have you got for us, Mohamed?
Yeah, a lot of the points I was going to say have been taken, so I'll go real quick there. I mean, I agree with both Eve and Tim. This was basically a necessary episode just to fill in some of the backstory for Ezri. So I get that. I did love the connection to the Bilby story from Honor Among Thieves. I thought that was great. I mean, if I had to rate it, I'd say below the mean in terms of the episodes. I mean, it's not the very bottom. It's definitely no Meridian, but it's below the mean. But yeah, I mean, given where Deep Space Nine is, below the mean can still be okay.
Below the mean, above the Meridian.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Exactly. Below the mean, above the Meridian.
Right in there.
Two of the actors were familiar to me. I couldn't place where they were until I looked up both of them. So Norvo, I was like, he seems really familiar. Somebody else who's always kind of like weird and edgy and stuff. But if any of you watched Madam's Secretary, he played Mike B in that, who was the guy with the dog who was all like edgy and stuff like that. So that made sense. And the mom, Lee Taylor Young is her real name. She actually won an Emmy in 1994 and a Golden Globe the next year for a role in Picket Fences. So this was a series that aired similar times. So,
Shoes
and Passions.
And
and which
love Passions.
Oh, Passions, yeah. I thought she was. Oh, sorry.
And Soylent Greens.
Yeah,
I didn't see that. But I thought she was especially very good. I thought her acting and also Nikki's. I mean, I thought they were very good. The plot was meh, but I mean, again, as Eve pointed out, it was something they put out in a couple of days. I mean, I couldn't have done anything better in a couple of days. So more power to them.
Didn't Norvo seem so familiar to me too? But I think maybe he just reminded me of a young David Spader or James Spader, not David Spade, James Spader, right?
Spader. Yeah, James Spader.
Could be David Spade. He kind of looks like him.
Yeah, with the hair. Yeah, good stuff there. Homer Freezy, we already got all your goodies. Good stuff there.
Thank you.
What about you, Goldie Scott? You got any goodies for us today?
Well, I got a couple questions with it. There was that other group of the guy that was walking around and doing all the threatening, and then the security police. They looked like they were all one kind of from a planet of their own, but they looked very similar to the original Trill that were on TNG.
Oh,
good knowledge.
And I was wondering if they were somehow wrapping that together. And I thought it would be cool if it was like the explanation Picard gave about Romulans, how one hemisphere of the planet has these ridges and the other half just has spots. I thought that would have been cool if they'd worked that in canon wise. But I guess that would be possible if the Xindi can all evolve on one planet. I guess, you can have forehead bumps and dots as well. But my other question was, does everybody have a Norvo in their family? Because I feel like he's an archetype just for the human condition there. Yeah, see that cat right there.
Yeah, you're right.
He looked very similar. The other guy had a hat on though, so I guess he was on the top of it.
Wait, who's that?
That was from TNG, wasn't it?
TNG, yeah.
The original Trill.
No, that is.
No, that's
that was
from
the
Deep Space
police.
Nine.
See?
Yeah,
Well,
that's this guy. That's one of the dudes, whatever his name was.
Some of them are like fairy and
Thodian or
stuff.
something. What was his name?
Oh, Thadian Bokar.
Yeah,
So Bokar's not Trill, he's Farian, and also he's John
Okay,
in
that did
Pee-wee's
name that
Playhouse.
Okay.
And also he helped invent Elvira. But
Oh, there you go.
yeah, that's for Peter.
Pee-wee's Playhouse.
He was Zombie, yeah. On
You know
Pee-wee's
who else
Playhouse.
worked on Pee-wee's Playhouse? A production assistant was our good friend, Mr. Rob Zombie, was a PA on the show. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. What else you got for us, Scott? You love this episode though overall, right?
I feel about like what Tim does. I do feel like it should have been stuck in a better place. Ezri doesn't have a lot of chances, with the one season. It would be something I think that could have been fleshed out really well in a book. And from the rumors that I heard that they wanted to do more with their family and wanted to do more with just the Orion Syndicate connection. And I think that it's cool that, because we didn't get a last name. We didn't get Ezri Tegan. We didn't get one with Jadzia. We didn't get a lot of pre-joining stories about Jadzia other than that.
Exactly.
That Kazon was creeping on her. Curzon was creeping on her, back when she was taking the test. That's about all we got of her pre-joining.
Yeah.
So I think that was cool that you get so little with Ezri, but you get that whole part. You get that whole family dynamic. And, DS9 does, again, we've talked about it a million times, those great family dynamics. But I also saw how Norvo is kind of like, has some similarities to Jake in the point that he wants to be artistic and he's got all the stuff he wants to do, but he doesn't have a Ben Sisko. He's got Mama Tegan there that she forces him pretty much into the family business. Where when Ben finds out that Jake wants to go right, he's like, awesome, let me see what you got. And he was supportive in that manner, not supportive of let me hang all your stuff up and let me, overcompensate about everything that you put out, because which is what sadly did probably push him into that. But I did feel for him at that point where he just gets completely blasted and tears his stuff up, because personally, as a writer or artist, I have wanted to shred everything I've done at one point or another. So I've definitely felt where he was coming from there. I didn't, eventually shred another human though. So I think I probably came out
nice.
Another person.
You just got an explosion of laughter from Grandpa One right now, but he's muted, so we could only see it. It was a visual cue.
I could depend on Tim, man.
What'd you say, Anne-Marie?
Weren't those paintings made by actually like a Paramount security guard? I came across that when I was like reading about the episode, but I couldn't find any. I don't know if the companions. I didn't see anything extra about it.
Oh,
makes it even cooler.
Were they? Because if they were, that would be probably Russell English. He was the artist.
Maybe. I was like, this is so cool. And then apparently the art, it was definitely someone who worked, I'm pretty sure, security. And then the art department made duplicates so that the actual art wouldn't get ruined.
Nice.
I was about to say something about that. That would have really sucked. It spent all that time, but then they just got to slash it up and draw stickmen on the front of it. Ooh.
Russ did the stick figure painting. I know that one.
That's what it was.
They let Molly handle that.
Nitpick that I have for that. The bit where she was saying about with the stick figure, and she said he was up all night doing this, and I was what, doing a stick man in like 2 seconds.
What drugs were you on?
That was the one line that I was like, oh, that's just a stupid line.
Maybe because we didn't see it in HD, maybe it looked better.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Maybe that's true.
Speaking of good points, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, what good points do you have for us today?
Oh, just that I actually love this episode more and more every time I watch it.
See
and
you guys.
Especially when keeping in mind, like, it's so special still, like in these early days without serialization, like it was still so cool to have episode callbacks to other previous episodes. And I mean, obviously Deep Space Nine does it more, but even for them to call back like random other episodes from other seasons, I love that. And it like other people were saying, I liked knowing more about Ezri's backstory because we didn't really know about Jadzia's family. And then the other really cool thing about the mom is that she's sisters with Dae Young, who was Odo's first intimacy, and also had a baby with Masterpiece Society. Fun fact.
Man.
Odo's first intimacy.
Yes, I love her.
The changeling lady?
No, the one with the hair, the headpiece thing that she had her. Yeah,
that's why she looked so familiar. That's got to be it. You guys check this out.
She was one of my favorite
actors. Syndicate too.
Remember this one, Sirach?
Oh yeah.
This is my favorite trading card of all time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have that card someplace.
Under your mattress.
I love that episode.
I love that episode too.
I think the original title was 40-Year-Old Virgin, but they changed it.
Yeah, I read that.
Oh, they got more days in their years too on Bajor. Oh man.
All right. Great stuff, Anne-Marie. Wow, so that was really her sister then.
Yeah, is that cool?
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be why she looked familiar to me. That's got to be it.
All right. Passions watcher.
Rex A. Wood is a Passions watcher, though. What do you got for us?
Yeah,
today?
really. I would have liked the Sisko versus Sisko thing much better.
Yes.
I'm really thinking that would have been the way to go. If I had been there, I would have said, yeah, let's just do that, because we needed something like that. We really did. Not one of my favorite episodes. I'm not on that fence of liking. There were some great things in it. I mean, there was a great message to it. I love the first part of it, when Bashir is so scared of Sisko, and he's saying, you're lying to me about, about O'Brien and everything else. And he's trying to like not lie. And so it's like, yeah, you need to get this report to me, and you need to get it to me in an hour, those kind of things. So there were some good things on that, but overall, yeah, we probably needed some background on Ezri, but not really excited about this episode. Matter of fact, I went back to watch it again and had a really hard time pushing the play button on it, just because it's not one of my favorite. It's just not one of my favorite. I think towards the end, we were going so well with the last episode, and then we kind of dropped. Okay, on that one. And like I said, understanding it was a quick put together episode, absolutely, but just not real excited about it. So I like I said, when somebody said there had to be a better place for it, I could think of a better place for it.
Well, you with the
Gok? An airlock?
Yeah, airlock with the Gok. It could have gone with the Gok. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Rex, try this exercise. Name 23 things you liked about this episode.
23? My God. The end? The beginning and the end. Had a great title beginning, the song was always great, and the end was always good, but that's all. In between, like I said, it was okay, but it just was not one of my favorites. I think it got too high of a score. I really did.
Wow,
compared to everything else they did. Everything else they did, just not that excited about it, But I don't know, maybe if I watch it 3 or 4 more times, maybe I'll get excited about it. I don't know.
All right, everybody at home, you heard it here first. Rex A. Wood's going to watch it 3 or 4 more times. Next week at the next free-for-all, he's going to check back with us and let us know.
I will see if I like it. Yes, if it's gotten any better, or it may have gotten worse.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Yeah. All right, Tierney C. Dieckmann is out on the road somewhere. What have you got for us today, Tierney? Cool shirt, by the way.
Oh yeah, I am actually wearing one of my Star Trek super comfy sweatshirt. And thank you. Homer just mentioned in the chat something that I was going to obnoxiously mention out loud, that yes, they misused the term prodigal daughter, prodigal son return. It doesn't mean that such and such went off and became successful and returned. And no, they returned penniless, a prodigal son and or daughter, and that's not the case. It's often misused, and it drives me nuts. It's another one of those just little nitpicks. So yes, thank you, Homer, for bringing that up. Then like Sirach, I don't have a lot of notes on this one, partly because I just haven't had the time to sit and write them. And it is kind of hard to write notes because, as Yvette mentioned too, they didn't have time. They had I think 10 days once they had done all the rewrites from the Sisko on Sisko fights and everything else to get to this point in the script, which is kind of sad because I have always really liked this episode for a number of reasons, probably some positive, some negative, personal reasons. But I would have liked to have seen more. It's another one of those that I thought from a viewer standpoint focused on kind of the wrong things as far as the story went. Apparently in one of the writing drafts, there had been some talk that maybe the Orion Syndicate was in with the Tegan family because of Ezri and getting her the symbiont or something like that. But it might have seemed a little unrealistic that the Syndicate had that much pull with the Federation, etc. But they didn't necessarily have to go quite into that side. I kind of would have liked to see, well, maybe that's still how she sort of got the Dax symbiont, but it wasn't so much to do with the Federation, but to do with the potential of an uprising on Trill. They were somehow able to cover it up or make it seem normal. Maybe Ezri had gone through the training to become a host. So they could say forge those records, as opposed to, well, Dax, a prominent, often ambassador to the Federation as multiple hosts, was just suddenly given to this ensign on a ship, not just out of an emergency, but it also worked, the joining, and she didn't get that much counseling for it. But to avoid there being that, as we know on the episode with Duran and Jadzia, that crazy thing on, well, you know what, a huge amount of our population can be joined, but you do have to go through quite a lot of psychological training for it, and black market and all the things that can come with that, which I surmised a while back when, how is it that Ezri just got the simian and nobody seemed to mention that? Well, what is this doing to Trill? Like, do they not know? This is Dax. Like, Dax is very well known as far as we can tell. So something's a little weird, but we didn't hear any more than that. And I would have liked to know more about what was going on with O'Brien's side of things. We didn't get to see that. And from what I could tell in a little bit of researching the episode, they just didn't really get to write that and film it. And actually, one thing that Eve had mentioned with I think it was Eve, about the set piece with Quark and his little gold bin there. There is a piece of mining equipment that I believe they also repurposed for Enterprise mining equipment. The big,
really,
I think it's also part of the big Dalek light setup thing, unless that's what she means too, and I misunderstood. But there's a lot of reused pieces there. It's like, oh, cool, they continue that sort of continuity with mining equipment. And I'm glad, thank you, Scott, for letting me know they did redo the art pieces. I missed that when reading that they had made duplicates, because that always makes me sad seeing, because some of those art pieces are pretty freaking awesome. I would definitely put a lot of those in my own home. But what I say, I like this episode for negative personal reasons. Probably too much information, but basically Ezri's mother is my mother if she ran a multinational space conglomerate, which thank God for the universe she doesn't. Just that line of, first upon seeing her, I hate your hair, come give me a hug. And the nitpicking and the grading and the berating, and nothing is ever good enough. Well, you know, you could be an artist, Norvo, but you're just not strong enough. You're not mentally, fit enough for this, to handle this. You're just too fragile, and all of these lines. And no wonder the hell Ezri went away, and she's a therapist and into psychology. She wants to understand these things, in my opinion, if that, based on my own upbringing. But every time I've rewatched this episode, because this is one I don't usually skip, and anytime my husband and I have watched this, he goes, "Oh God, she's your mother," and I mean that nicely. I love you, Mom. But there's just like this personal relationship of, I relate to Ezri too much. But overall, an episode I enjoy, and I don't skip it. I like the mystery and O'Brien and all of that, but a little tropey, as Yvette said, Women at Warp had put, and it suffers a bit, but it's okay. I fall much more on the positive side than the negative.
Nice.
So, yeah, what are you gonna do?
See, you guys, everybody practically loves this episode. Practically everybody. Faith, you got to be our tiebreaker here. I think it's neck and neck between love and less love. Where do you fall on this one?
Okay, so I'm not a fan. I don't love this episode. What? You guys are making me like it a little bit more. I'm seeing the layers more than I had coming in here. But I just feel like this is the worst murder mystery ever. Like, we don't know the character that we're supposed to be shocked about her death. And we don't know the characters that well that did it, and or any of the suspects. O'Brien, not the best police officer ever. Bless his heart. But as much as I love O'Brien, I feel like Odo would have been much better in that position. But I respect that they felt like probably at the time, we have this brand new character, we need to flesh her out. What a great opportunity, let's show her background. And I do appreciate anytime that we get to see a little extra part of the universe. And so we have kind of seen the Orion Syndicate, but we haven't seen the Orion side of the Orion Syndicate. So I feel like this would have been a great time to do that. I also think they missed a huge opportunity as we were going into the end and the climax of the Dominion War. They had already planted the seed in the episode with Bilby, where the Dominion was working with them. And so couldn't they have pulled on that string a little harder and built some sort of big thing, even if it took 2 episodes? They could have put something a little more critical in there as opposed to just making this a throwaway episode. Or even like you guys have said, putting a little more about the sort of inner politics of the Trill Society and learning a little bit more. So if Ezri never wanted to be joined and now suddenly she is, of course we think there's probably going to be some issues with you have to be trained to get one. Now, how did she get one? How come I can't have one? How come I tried my whole life and did everything I was supposed to do and washed out of the program? And so, I think there could have been something with that. There could have been, that princess edge. What if she wasn't a princess and she did come from just regular people, hardworking miners, and now she is sort of aristocracy because of the Dax symbiont? And so that could have been an interesting way to spin it. But I think, they missed some opportunities here for sure.
Yeah. But don't they get points for opening up opportunities too?
No, because we didn't have time to do anything with it.
What'd you say?
Not
Lisa?
In the 7th season.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I will say that I did like the aspect of Ezri being a princess, but us not knowing that until we get to her home where she grew up, because she definitely doesn't act like a princess, if that makes sense. She acts like she comes from, regular stock.
Everybody in the comments, we want to know, if Ezri Dax was a Disney princess, which Disney princess would she be? You got a lot to choose from. So let us know. I'm getting a lot of looks at me saying that's a stupid question. What was that?
It's not.
Remember that guy? That's a stupid question.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to run in just a second, but before we go, Scott, you made an interesting point about Jadzia calling in that birthday gift like 6 months in advance, right?
Great, man. You're going to arrange that stuff with an accident, I mean, she didn't know it was coming, but that's got to be 6 months to a year. It's a good friend.
Seriously. Good planning.
With that many varieties, you got to plan ahead.
Right.
She should have joined Prime.
She ordered that gawk before that gawk was born.
She should have had Nog get it. Nog knows the Great River. So
I think there's Prime.
Little known fact, she actually was a member of Azadi Prime. So there's that.
Yeah.
It's close. Srock, any final thoughts before we go?
Well, I kind of agree with Faith about the fact that I think they could have done more with the Orion Syndicate and tied that story into the Dominion War a little bit. It would have been nice if actually her family was willingly working with the Orion Syndicate as opposed to being kind of manipulated and bullied by them. I would have liked to see that aspect. It would have made for more drama for me. Also, it could have set up a future Sisko or the Federation needs to use her connects through the Orion Syndicate to do some backdoor deal for something that they need to defeat the Dominion. That would have been another planting some future storyline I would have liked to see. I agree in the opposite with Anne-Marie. I like this episode the more and more I don't watch it. So
right. Scathing.
You have to watch it again until you decide.
Yeah.
You have to watch it again.
My nitpick is that O'Brien barely sees his own wife, and yet he's hunting down some dude's wife from last season. Where's your wife? She's always gone doing some botany stuff, and you barely see your own wife. So, I think, I had a small problem with that. Yeah. And I guess the last thing is for me is it was Sharif don't like it. Got me with Casper.
Okay.
That's
very nice.
The Strong don't like it.
Yeah. I was thinking of another song when you were talking about Keiko, like no botany knows.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's a good one.
How bad this episode was.
Yes.
All right, everybody. So that's it for us, everybody at home. Remember, stay tuned next week. Rex will report back after his 5th rewatch of this episode. Sirach will be at like 12. So he's going to keep watching until he loves it. And he has every line memorized. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Sue, Melissa, Eve, TJ, Tim, Carrie, Tierney, Mohamed, Homer, Scott, Anne-Marie, Faith, and Rex. We will see you all very soon. We appreciate all of you. Oh, nice Care Bear, Rex. And the Care Bear. Thank you for joining us. What's the Care Bear's name?
This is actually going to be I haven't decided yet. I'll decide by next week. I'll tell you next week.
Okay.
Cliffhanger.
It's gonna be Keiko.
Stabby.
Yeah.
Stabby?
Stabby? That doesn't sound good. That does not sound good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Sorry about the weird jokes that we make. We'll see you again real soon.
No, we're not.
And until next
No
time.
apologies.
Oh, we're not.
No apologies.
No, we're not.
Tell us your weird
Orbo.
jokes in the comments below, everybody. We'll see you soon. Until then, always remember the 7th rule.